welcome back to my Flash episode review. My thoughts on the Season 3 premiere of Flash titled Flashpoint. And it's good to be back after that long summer break. And leading off with probably one of the most anticipated episodes of The Flash so far. Dealing with, the Flashpoint and the Flashpoint paradox. And honestly, I want to preface my review by saying this. I knew going in it wasn't going to be exactly like the Flashpoint that we saw in the comics and in the Flashpoint animated film. And with that being said, I was kind of disappointed by this episode because to me, almost nothing about it felt like Flashpoint to me. It almost felt like any other episode of The Flash. They just kind of threw the Flashpoint thing on. And yes, Barry going back in time did affect things. Obviously we see Wally as Kid Flash. We see Edward Claris as the rival. We see Cisco being a billionaire. Caitlin is no longer working with Cisco anymore. Iris doesn't know who Barry is, and his parents are still alive. So we see all those changes, but nothing because that's the thing I loved about the Flashpoint graphic novel and the animated movies, that you felt that the stakes were there, that holy shit, what Barry did had serious consequences. And the only real consequences he had was the fact that he was losing his abilities as the Flash, he was losing his memories, and Wally ended up dying. While those aren't necessarily good things, I felt like they weren't, the stakes weren't as high, because obviously in the graphic novel we had, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, and the Atlanteans, and the Amazonians, they were at war, and they were essentially destroying the world. And then then you had Thomas Wayne as Batman, and then you had Cyborg, who was kind of the Superman of that world, and the real Superman was held by the government. And none of those I understand they can't have a lot of those elements because those characters are tied in with the movies, but at the same, give us something along those lines. You could have had Oliver Queen's dad be Arrow and tied that into it, and then you could have had something else along those lines. But in this episode, to me, it just felt like Flashpoint light. It didn't feel it didn't have enough elements of Flashpoint to make it feel like Flashpoint to me. Besides that, I thought it was a good Flash episode. The Flashpoint title aside, I like where we started with, Barry's nervous system asking Iris out, because obviously I think the showrunners have pretty much, set in stone that they are destined to be together in any sort of reality. So I like that, and I thought their chemistry was so great in this episode, showing that quickly even Iris realized that you're the one for me, and that we are something in another reality. So I was so happy to see her recognize that. And I really liked Wally in this episode because he was kind of he was making very immature decisions, and he was he wanted to be more of the lone wolf. And I feel like that certain aspects of the Wally West character that we saw when he was Kid Flash in the comics and in Young Justice and all that stuff, and seeing him in the Kid Flash suit, I did the video on that suit when the pictures came out. I think the suit looks great. I think Keenan Lonsdale as Kid Flash is really going to work out. I just want to know what's going to happen now that the Flashpoint universe is no longer going to be there. Is he going to still be the Kid Flash, or are they going to make certain changes or kind of make him the non-speedster that he was at the end of Season 2? Or the events of Season 2 where he did get struck by the particle accelerator when Barry tried getting his powers back, if that's still going to be in effect, we don't know. That's one thing I don't know where this show is going to go. Obviously they introduced Dr. Alchemy as the villain he's the big bad for this season, and I don't know much about him at all, so I'm curious to see where that's going to go. Let's see, what else is there to talk about? Obviously, Barry losing his memories is the one aspect that I'm glad they kept from the graphic novel. That, because it is something that, his memories, especially for him being there for 3 months, his memory shouldn't have lasted that long. And even then, I was just happy to see that they at least kept that element in there. That, if this world isn't perfect and this world isn't necessarily meant for him, but at the same time, he shouldn't be remembering so much from his previous life. And how everything was kind of hitting at but once, the more he uses speed. I like that aspect. And I thought Reverse Flash in this episode was incredible. I think that's the best performance that this actor has given as Reverse Flash since we've been introduced to him. Because obviously we had, Tom Cavanaugh portray the Harrison Wells version, if you will, of Reverse Flash in Season 1. And Tom Cavanaugh did an amazing job in Season 1, but obviously that wasn't really Reverse Flash. That was Eobard taking the form of Harrison Wells. So with this actor, when he was brought on last season in the Reverse Flash Returns, I thought he was okay. I don't think he gave the best performance, but in this episode, I really feel the banter between him and Barry, and him mentioning that like this Barry is making dumb decisions that as his older counterpart, the one that Reverse Flash knows would make those mistakes. So I really want the show to introduce the 2024 Flash that that Eobard Thawne has fought. I want to see an older, more mature Barry, because another thing I was kind of bothered with in this episode was I'm so tired of Barry always having to have a motivational speech to get him to do the right thing. Like, we've seen it so many times in the run Barry runs, and like the you can do this Barry, you're a hero, and blah blah blah. Like, I'm getting really tired of it. I've been a huge fan of this show, and this show has been like my favorite DC show like for the last like 2 years, and it's things like that really bother me because they've done it so many times, and it's like just come up with a new way of motivating Barry that isn't just another motivational speech from Iris or from one of the other characters, or telling Barry he's a hero, because he's heard it so many times. We don't need him to hear it again. With that being said, his battle with Rival and Kid Flash, I thought was kind of cool. Rival, I thought was kind of a weak villain, and I'm glad he seemed to be like kind of like a one-off villain, or they kind of tease that he could be more at the end of the episode. But I thought the look of Rival was okay. People thought he was going to be like the Black Racer or like the Black Flash, and I'm like, no, because that's kind of what they teased at the end of the season with Zoom and what he became. And Rival in this episode, he was just there to be almost just like cannon fodder for he was almost like the villain of the week in that aspect. So I wasn't expecting too much. I had when the set photos first came out of Rival, and everyone was speculating like who he was going to be. Is he going to be the big bad of the season? And as we got closer to the season premiere, I realized he wasn't going to be, and of course he isn't going to be the main villain of the season, because I'm getting really tired of seeing speedsters as villains. But overall, I thought this was a good episode. It didn't live up to the Flashpoint name. In that aspect, I was disappointed with it. But as a season premiere, I thought it was okay. I thought it was a good Flash episode, and I'm looking forward to what this season has to offer, because I don't know what's going to happen with this season, other than we're going to see Jay Garrick back. We're going to see a 4-way crossover between Supergirl, Legend of Tomorrow, Arrow, and Flash, and I'm excited for the season. It didn't have the best start. I thought it was a good enough episode to start the season. I just don't want to go down the path of Arrow Season 3, where we saw the quality tank as soon as more ideas and more things were introduced. So, yeah, I think that's going to be it. What did you guys think of the Flash season premiere? Sorry if I sounded a little too down, guys. It's just, maybe I had my expectations too high, especially with the Flashpoint title that, obviously I was going to be let down, and it obviously wasn't Flashpoint. But, again, I had some issues with it, but, again, I thought it was a good episode and a solid season premiere. And I'm more excited to see Jay Garrick back. I'm more excited for the 4-way crossover between all these shows. So, yeah, that being said, that's going to be it for me. So if you guys like what you see here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. This season, I'm going to be reviewing, obviously, Flash on Tuesdays, Legend of Tomorrow on Thursdays, Supergirl on Mondays, Star Wars Rebels on Saturdays. More than likely, I'm still not going to be reviewing Arrow. I may watch some episodes here and there, like the 4-way crossover I'm going to watch. I might see the season premiere tomorrow, just to see, if the season is even going to be worth watching, because I already gave up on Arrow, and nothing except for the most recent season 5 trailer. Nothing about it is appealing to me anymore, especially with the All the City fan base and all that stuff. But enough about that. So once again, guys, thank you for watching. Hopefully tune in next week to my review of next week's episode. So that's going to be it for me. So until next time, guys, have a good one.